Blog Talk Radio.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome to RIR Radio. And, of course, you're hanging out with us this evening with Recovery Talk. I'm John. I'm your host for tonight, and I want to welcome everybody for hanging out with us. And tonight's topic is living life in recovery. And we have a couple of guests that we have with us tonight. We have Mark, who is coming on with us. He is out of Colorado. And we have my buddy Bruce that's coming live from Tampa. And we're going to bring both those guys on right now and speak with them and see what they think about living life in recovery. Mark and Bruce, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. How are you doing today?
Hey, Jack. Hey, Mark.
Hanging in there, brothers.
All right. Jack, how you doing?
Good. Let me ask you, man. You know, the technology today. Thank God for technology. We were on the air for many years, as you guys know. In local radio, on an AM dial, and when we decided to start doing the show again, really just wanted to do a no frills, no fluff show where you get on and you just start talking about the issues, or you start talking about the interview, and without the commercial interruptions, without any of that stuff. And what I want to get to is right to it. So I'm going to ask Mark from Colorado to share with me, what is it for you living life in recovery? What does that mean to you? I mean, because you come through that process of getting clean and getting sober, and then you have to live life. What does that mean to you?
Well, it means a lot to me. I mean, I come from a radio background, too, out here in Colorado. And the funny part is, I love the fact that what you guys are doing and being able to come out here. And, I thought I was living when I was running around in the radio field and everything else. And then I was actually really beginning my other career of my active addiction and using. And then I realized that, being on the radio, being in the community, doing stuff really started to diminish. And I ended up really getting in, secluding myself, after I got into recovery after, some 27 years, I really didn't know how to live. I knew how to, stay alone. I knew how just to, stay in the shadows as opposed to be in the forefront where I always used to like to be, and where drugs and alcohol would allow me to be. But then I turned around and realized, I have to break out of this, and I can do this in recovery. Being 43 today and being able to get out there and actually, become social again, in the social world. I mean, thank goodness for Facebook for, being able to be there and help some people out of some situations and ruts that they're in. But I also think that could also be a tool that can, damage folks as well. It just depends on how you use it, just like anything. So today, I mean, it's just amazing being able to be out there, be in the groups of people again, go to basketball games, just go out and do something, even if it's by myself, but out in public, as opposed to just closing the doors, shutting the shades, and just sitting here.
That's a great analogy. Bruce, just so everybody's aware, Bruce is also with a band that has been working with us for a long, long time called the Keep Coming Back Band. And Bruce is not only a great person to talk to who's in recovery, but he's also a great bass player. So, Bruce, let me ask you a question, Bruce. At this present point of your life, you've been in recovery for a long time now, and you came through that whole beginning part of it, like I'd asked Mark, and now, you're living your life. And what does that living life in recovery mean to you? What does that, work out for you?
John, that's so right. And I want to agree with Mark there. It's all about being involved with life as it happens, and be in the now. I never was able to be in the now back when I was like ripping and rearing, and even in early recovery, it was so tough to try to figure out what to do with the wreckage and all the things that had happened, and how do I make right. And after going through the process of recovery, and for me, which was a 12-step help, I was able to make a peace with my past, and then I could start looking at now, at the things that were going on, be spontaneous with those things that would present itself. I believe that life has just provided opportunity for me, as it does for everyone, but I had to be ready and prepared to accept it when it happened. And, this has turned into the hugest adventure. This recovery gig, I was like, man, what was I thinking? When I was chasing that buzz, man, this is like the biggest adventure, man. And it happened so fast. And then there you stand, and you say, God, how did I get here? And I know how I got here. I just didn't use one day at a time. And started listening to those people that had some time and, were offering suggestions, started taking that suggestion. So.
For myself, man, I come through this whole process where I just went through a whole lot of personal stuff, and getting back involved in recovery and getting back involved with putting recovery first was a huge thing for me, because what I had done was I had let a lot of the great things that recovery had given me deter me from my primary purpose of dealing with my own addiction, and in helping others. You know what I mean? It took me away. Those things took me away. So how do you guys, with multiple years, work on not letting the good things that recovery has given you and living in recovery take you away from the same thing that was, that gave it to you?
That's a great topic. I mean, because, I've had several years of recovery, coming off of meth since 1999. I was sentenced to sobriety, and then, going through that for the past 15 years. There's been some relapses in between, and when I really enjoyed helping people, giving back, doing stuff for, like, our local drug court system and helping people find jobs and, being able to give back, that moment that I used took everything away. I mean, instantaneously, to the point that I was beating my head on the table. Why did I do this again? Why did I do this again? And then having the opportunity to have people in my life, the support system in my life, that has just really brought me to the point where I am today. Because no matter that I had to change my sobriety date a couple of times, the fact remains is I still took that knowledge with me. See, where I wanted to continue to beat myself up and everything else, where that the addiction wanted me to stay secluded, to stay away and not live my life. And when I came back out on the other side, by the grace of God, I've been able to come out to the other side and do this thing again, and to be able to go out and actually live and not have to worry about, let's worry about Mark's recovery right now. Let's worry about what we're doing first before we go out and start helping everybody else, because I think that also shadows, our own stuff where we can't really get in there and we can't really go and do our program, whichever it may be. And there's so many different things out there that people can go do, but it's that opportunity to be able to get out there, and live life and get to know who you are first. Get to like to be with yourself. So that's the hardest thing for a lot of people. And I don't know. I'm just going to say for me, that's what it was. And I remember that sometimes that's the reason why I went and did the activities that I'd done, so that I could stay away from it. So
I love
that's what I had to say.
Bruce, what do you think? What do you think, Bruce?
Right on, Mark. And, John, I'd like to say that my personal journey has been 12-step oriented. And I'm clear that the process of those steps always helps me to get in the now, helps me to get aware of who and what I am, what my participation should be with my relationships, work relationship, family relationships, social relationships. All those things came about in a process. It was not an event. And it expanded off of the group of recovery network people that I had placed in my life early on. And, I didn't have the skills to cope really with life on life's terms in the early days. And to learn how to do that, I had to make some mistakes. It never came, well, here's the black and white of this deal. Now, you should be able to just go out here and cope. You sat in this many meetings. You should have this down pat. It's always been each day presented new challenges, and then I would go through the process. And I'm going to say something about those steps, too. Those steps were laid out, and I looked at them, and I thought, oh, my God, this is taking months, man. And I got caught up in that, thinking that was the way it was going to be. Every time I was going to work the steps in my life, I was going to be spending months on some inventory or some kind of thing. Here's the reality. This is a way of life now for me. And by practicing that and those principles in my life one day at a time, it provides me an opportunity, if I want to to do the process of those steps in 4 or 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And if it's a real challenge, if it's something I'm really stuck on, then it's time to sit down and do the inventory, man. Get it out, go back through what's happened, what are my motives, really get engaged in what's going on in my life with some accountability people so that I don't continue to go down a bad path that eventually would lead to relapse, where I keep picking up. I'm blessed, man. I got the coolest people in my life. I am so blessed to have friends like them.
And I'm glad that you brought that up, because for myself, one of the things that took place when I was going through what I was going through was not only was there physical issues going on that I wasn't dealing with, and I really believe that this is a whole thing about mind, body, and spirit. Living life in recovery is about dealing with your mind and your body, and making sure that you're healthy and you're going to the doctors and you're doing those things. These are things that in 7 years of recovery I neglected. I didn't follow through on a lot of that stuff. And what happened was all of that all of my past behaviors caught up to me physically 7 years into my recovery. Diabetes, other things that were, high blood pressure, all of these things that were manifesting themselves physically, I wasn't dealing with. Because, again, it was all about other things, you know what I mean? It was all about other stuff. So what happened, and I think one of the things that I look at today is the fact that as I was easing God out, because, you ease God out, as you're easing God out, you're also easing out your network. You're also easing out your friends. You're also easing out the people that love you the most. So one day you end up alone. And what happens is you end up with your disease. You're cornered by your disease. So if you're not doing the things that you're talking about, Bruce, and you're not continuing to work the steps and work the principles and do the things that you need to do for your recovery each and every moment, there's certain things that I have to go through on a daily basis. I have to do that every minute. You know what I mean? How am I reacting? How am I behaving? Those things have to be, I have to look at those things. I can't just shrug them off and say it's no big deal. So that being said, Mark, do you think that the process of living life in recovery can also sometimes corner you where you want to avoid and not be involved with people and not have to tell them what you're going through? There's that stigma, Bruce, and I'm sure you know this too, where, hey, listen, I got 7 years, I got 10 years, I got 20 years. I can't say that. I'll look like an idiot. Have you ever experienced that, Mark?
I have in different arenas. I am in a home-based business. I also have a regular 9-to-5 job, and I'll never forget one time when they called on me, I stood up right in the middle of the room. Hi, I'm Mark. I'm an alcoholic, and we weren't in no type of a 12-step group. So, I'm like, oh, no, okay. So then, but I'll tell you, the respect that I got from a lot of people afterwards, you would be really, really amazed to understand that, it's out there. We've all been affected in one way or another, family members, people who don't understand. I love the fact that none of us had spoke prior to this phone call. And it's almost like it's scripted because we're flowing so well. First of all, it's because of the host. Thank you so much for all that you're doing, not just, for us here, but for the community, for everybody that's tuning in right now that's listening, because I really believe that when you're connected into your program, that you have that opportunity to really shine and speak. Not just because of your ego, but you're able to speak what's flowing through you at that moment. So I really appreciate that. But, yeah, there's been times, that's like, oh, I can't say that I got this much time in sobriety, I really feel uncomfortable because of that stigma, but as years have gone on, what I've noticed is I really don't care. So today, to answer that question, no, it doesn't bother me as much. But I remember there was a time that, it backed me into a lot of corners because I didn't want to say anything because I was afraid of what could be, what people would say, what people think. And today that's really, really changed for me a lot.
How about you, Bruce?
Yeah, right on, Mark. John, I think that, I live my life as best as I can, day to day, and I don't always do everything right. It's been a long time since I relapsed. I have my recovery date, my sobriety date is November 20th, 1980. And in that time, there's been plenty of days where I just didn't do very well. I'm telling you, I may not have picked up and used, didn't do all that good plenty of times. And, you know, you sit around in the rooms, a lot of times you hear people say, well, if you don't pick up, well, then you're a winner. That's the fact. Because if I don't go down that road, then I got a chance to do right now, make a difference, you know. If I get caught up in that and the disease drives the bus, now everything is going down the tubes for a while, and then I got to go back through that process of, well, what am I going to do? I had a relapse about, I guess 4 or 5 months after I came in. I came in May, stuck around, relapse of 80, and then went back out and came back in November. And, man, what a trip. It was like, all of a sudden I felt like I had to prove everything to everyone, and what was I, you know, here's the reality. Have a fuse. You know, alcoholics use. That's what we do. And for us to be in a position now where all of a sudden we've been graced with a miracle of recovery, wow, what a gift. That's totally abnormal. So the new trick now is to try to use those things that present themselves as barometers. I can use people as barometers in my life, you know, the ones that are closest to me. When I see that there's changes in our relationship or you know, interactions or rapport, I find myself frustrated or them frustrated or any of us isolating and, you know, one thing and another, you know, that's a flag that flies up in my life. This relapse gig, you know, it starts way before I would pick up a drug or start drinking. You know,
absolutely.
It starts with isolation, or it starts with you know, being dishonest. You know, and I'm talking about like
absolutely
blatant, you know, like huge lies yet, but it becomes that. But it starts with, well, I'm okay. How you doing today? I'm fine. I'm not fine. Everybody doesn't need to be privy to that, but somebody needs to be privy. I need to be ratting Bruce out, you know. And so I have those accountability people in my life, man, that I talk to, and I try to be as real with them as I possibly can. The life I have today is just so precious, and I'm so
guys,
I'm so blessed.
What I want to do is
lose it, man.
I love it, brother. Hey, listen, we got a call coming in. Let me see. Let's take this call and find out who it is. Welcome to Rockers in Recovery. You having a good day?
Yeah, I'm having a pretty good day. How are you guys doing?
We're hanging in there. Welcome to the show. What's your name?
Thanks. I'm Marianne.
Hey, Marianne.
And,
hey, I love it. You're the one that picked the topic tonight.
I am. And I want
to
share the fact that when it was asked to make a suggestion for a topic, in 9 years into recovery, I had to look at myself and say, what's important to me right now, Mayor? And I realized that to some degree, that's what I do. I survive sobriety. I'm functional. I work. I rebuilt my relationships with my family. But is it everything that it should be? Am I out there living, you know, am I living strong? And the answer is no, because, you know, when I initially, you guys touched on this in the beginning, when I initially got into recovery, I was so broke down. I came out of prison. Prior to that, I was, you know, and I may be, I hate to say this, but maybe I'm far removed from the people that I'm talking to here right now. But, I mean, I was living in a box, you know what I mean? And, I mean, literally, before I went to prison. And I prayed that that something would happen, and the next day I was arrested. And, you know, yeah, I was.
I can so relate to you, Marianne.
Oh, God, thank you. I needed to hear that real quick, like.
Oh, absolutely. Yep, no stranger here either. Go ahead.
All right. So when I got out, I had so many things to repair, whether it be family connections, just family acceptance to a point, my health. My health was destroyed. I was a heroin addict for 30 years. I'm lucky to even be alive, you know, and have half a brain. But I do. I have a pretty damn good brain, you know. But I come home from work, which by the time I get home, I am just totally beat down, you know, because of my health. And I find myself, it's almost, I look around my room here where I stay, and it's kind of set up like a cell almost. You know what I'm saying? And it's, and don't get me wrong, I mean, I do things, and but I have to push myself. It doesn't feel natural like it does to, at least from my perspective, it doesn't feel natural like it does to other people. I still feel like I'm just different. And I don't know if I'm doing that elitism shit that I used to do when I was using. You know, I can do more than you can do or whatever. But in a sober way, I don't know. But I know that I'm not living the life that I'm meant to live. And the reason that I was rescued, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and I don't know what I need to do to get on that road. And so
Bruce,
that's why I suggested this.
Bruce, why don't you take this one?
Marianne, thank you so much. Listen, I just want to thank you for being vulnerable first, for even being in a place where you're willing to put yourself out there and allow someone else to take a look at that and make a comment. And what I would like to assure you is that over the course of my recovery, I had plenty of bad days. I've had plenty of bad periods. You know, it hasn't all been, a great fluffy pink cloud kind of situation.
Right.
As a matter of fact, there's, I'd like to be just perfectly clear that I've been homeless in recovery.
Right.
I've been divorced. Suicide was the best thought I could come up with. I've been in that place, and I've had everything ripped out from underneath me by divorce, kids leave, bankruptcy, the whole thing, the whole gig.
Right.
And when it came to the jumping off place, here's the coolest thing. I mean, there I'm sitting with a pistol in my mouth thinking that this is the best I can do because I've given all I could in recovery and I'm not getting it. And everybody else is talking promises. I go to a meeting, some lady standing up there going on about all the promises in her life, and I couldn't count on one. I'm thinking, what the heck's that? What's wrong with me? What? I'm retarded or something? I'm not praying right? What did I do?
Now, dig this. I'm not ungrateful. I'm grateful every day, and I do recognize how much I have. And you know what I'm saying? I'm not blind to what recovery has given me, but I also know that there's got to be more.
Well, here's what I did. I want to talk about what I did. I wound up going and showing up with this guy that I knew quite a while. He takes me to this AA, and they get me a job, and I'm serving coffee at the AA club. I'm a journeyman in my trade. I'm thinking, what am I doing in here?
Right.
But here's what would happen. Every time the phone would ring, and I'd get on the phone, and I'd wind up talking with some other person, some suffering person. Maybe it was a mom calling about her kid, or about her husband, or a guy calling about his wife, whatever, and it was the significant other, and it was like, how do you help this person? And then I would give out all that, like referral information for Al-Anon, all the stuff that I had. And then I would get a chance to go do some kind of real 12-step work where I'm working with some shaken person, and I help them into detox, and I'm seeing exactly where I'm heading if I, throw in the towel at this point. And I would come through the other side of that feeling just a little bit better, finding just a little bit more purpose in my life. And I found that each time, because this could never be about me and my little journey, so I got some cool life playing bass in a cool band, and doing all the cool stuff that I do today, it's so that I can be of service. When I started going into this, instead of seeking what was it I'm getting out of this gig, but what can I pack back into it, and being surely enough grateful knowing that this was not all about me and my own stuff, that a lot of times the things that would come about in my life as a direct result of the steps and one thing and another would be from outside of me, and I would be like so blown away one time after another. That's why I meant earlier about being in the now instead of being caught up in the what I think I should have or yesterday's. You know, it's how do I wrap around who he sends me, my Creator sends me today, so that I can look them in the eye and be focused on that.
Maybe that is exactly what I'm missing is that, you know, I never did the 12-step thing. I went into a recovery-based program after my prison stint and stayed there. I was supposed to stay there 60 days, and I ended up staying there over a year because I knew that I needed that much. Hell, I'd been dirty for 30 years. What the hell? If I couldn't spend a year here trying to get myself on track. But my point is, once I left there and I came back to my family, it became all about my family, and just staying clean seemed to be enough, and I was so grateful in that. But we're talking 9 years down the road now, and as you've just said, you know, you have to give back. And honestly, I haven't. And it never dawned on me that might be exactly what's missing. And perhaps that's what I need to do, you know.
Let's get Mark's
input too. I never did the Narcotics Anonymous or the Alcoholics Anonymous. I did it, as much as I had to, but I never really cared for that. It always seemed like everybody was talking their dirt rather than talking their sobriety. Not everybody, don't get me wrong, but a lot of people came there, like I said, to talk about, how much more they did than the next guy, the guy sitting next to them, and telling their I don't even remember what we used to call it. I know their war stories, And so I didn't go that route. But now I see that maybe that's exactly what I need to do, is get back into it in some way and be useful in the recovery process for somebody that doesn't have 9 years and might only have 8 or might only have 8 days. And then maybe I will find a little joy in this life because, man, it's kicking my ass right now.
Hey, Mark, why don't you share? Tell us what you know.
And I completely agree, Marianne, what you're saying. I mean, I've been on both sides of that. Okay, I did the AA thing and it doesn't work, because I'm a meth addict. Or I go, I always tried to figure out an answer because I was always an answer guy. I always had a reason why. I need to have the answer. See, and when I said, I always had to understand. And my sponsor told me, your understanding is not required. And that was the only statement that ever slapped me in my face. And I said, man, I guess it isn't. It's not required. So just go with it. Don't know anything because I like to know everything. You get in a position, and I'm sure these guys can understand what I'm talking about. You get into a position of where, ego goes with what you're doing. I do some stuff with NBC and a local television station here now in Denver, and then I also have my regular. We go into a whole bunch of stuff when we get into sobriety because it was a 24-hour-a-day job when we were out using continually. So what we do is we fill up that time with doing a lot of other things. So on Mondays and Tuesdays nights, I do a thing with NBC for the television show The Voice. And so, there some of the ego comes along with that because, you're running around with these folks that are on TV. You're on TV. You're doing stuff, all over. And that ego starts getting in there. And then so I try to have answers. Why do I, this isn't working? Well, because what I'm trying to do, and I realized what I was doing, was I was trying to manufacture it myself. I wanted to do their recovery my way. So when I finally had to let go and say, you know what, do with me what you will, that true word of surrender, and actually go out there and say, what do you suggest, and step back and listen to what the other person said and not just, see their mouth moving and just hear what I wanted to hear in my head, but to actually be able to go out there and put it to action. But until I really actually decided to put it to action, there was no real substantial recovery.
But
I always stopped because I had the time. Go ahead.
Who did you throw that to? Who did you throw that surrender to? In what direction did you throw that?
My sponsor told me, he goes, this is what you do. You just, in the quietness of your own room, you just say, I can't, you can and you please do, because what you're doing is you're just opening yourself up to whatever it may be, and actually just take some time to meditate over that and then go in that direction. Now, and for me, I was very fortunate. I mean, I had a lot of folks in AA. Now, I wasn't a drinker, okay? I'm an ex-meth addict, but I'll tell you something. Doing that for the 27 years and then being able to get in with a group that has a program to really move in with them and really do some stuff. AA, I didn't go back to the whole AA deal. I didn't go back to the whole CMA, NA. I didn't do none of that. I said, this is what I want to do. I'm going to do this on my own. It never worked. Of course, if you sponsor yourself, you're going to get jacked up again. I'll just tell you that from experience, so don't ever sponsor yourself.
Well, thank you. I think that's what I've been doing.
But I will tell you that when I finally threw it out there and I just said, I just didn't want what I had now, then
see, another layer of my issue here is that for a part of my period of use, for a very short period, I had some sobriety, and I became a drug counselor. And so there's still a part of me that thinks, oh, shit, you know what you're doing, and that's exactly what I am doing. I'm trying to sponsor myself. And after 9 years, I realized I'm nobody's sponsor. I'm sure not mine, because there's nothing else around me but what I have chosen to allow in, and I allow nothing in except what's been really safe. My family is safe, my dog is safe, my job is safe, but other than that, I don't, so yeah, I need to, one of you guys said, you just need to get out there, and if it means going to a basketball game by yourself, you do it. And that's what I need to start doing. And I guess perhaps I should start going to an AA meeting by myself instead of a basketball game. But, you get what I'm saying here. So
yeah,
it's the action of actually getting up and going and doing it. If you don't want, if you're not willing to really just even make the step to go touch your foot in the water, then how are you going to dive into the pool?
Absolutely.
You really have to get out there and go do it. And it's not easy. I'll tell you something. At the time when I went to jail, because I just wanted to die, next thing you know, I ended up getting arrested. Sounds like stories like I just heard.
Right.
And then I go to jail, and then, I never liked being alone. But for some reason, in a crowded jail for over 9 months, there was room for me to be in a single-man cell. I think somebody was trying to tell me something, that it's okay. And so I finally got into that piece, but then being able to go out and actually do stuff. So on my way home, maybe I'll stop by and I'll go down to an outdoor mall that we have called 16th Street Mall, and I'll just go hang out, maybe go buy myself something to eat or just walk up and down it. And, of course, I see a lot of stuff. You see a lot of the people that you just shake your head and you just pray for because you know right where they're at.
Right.
And it's just like, man, oh, man. But maybe those are the things that I need to see to be able to continue to keep putting one foot in front of the other. Not dive myself into the middle of the crowd and go rescue the world. No, I'm not saying that at all. But being able to just, I guess, subject myself to seeing that, God, I guess my life is pretty damn good because you know what? I could be right there, and I remember what it was like being right there. And then you remember everything that you've already been through to get to the point where you're at right now, and you just become very grateful. I think that without the gratitude, you have absolutely nothing.
Absolutely, and I agree with you totally. And thank God through all of this that I've been going through for the last 9 years, I have strong gratitude. I really am grateful. And I do work, if you want to call it that, work that part of my program. My family was, I had no family left, and like many of us. And I have a strong family connection now, which is all I ever really wanted, is what I told myself. But suddenly, I want a little more than that, you know what I mean? But like you said, you got to put your toe in the water, Marianne. So,
Marianne,
I thank you so much for reminding me what the basics are, because I think that's what I forgot were the basics. As long
Marianne,
as I'm giggling, I'm cool. Yes.
I still go to a lot of meetings. I didn't progress and find some place where I felt comfortable that I was just done with the 12-step gig. And the times that I have stayed away always left me feeling disconnected and a little dry. And, I have a lot of friends that are in recovery. Not all of them go to 12-step stuff. Some of them have chosen other ideas. And I'm cool with all those folks in my life because they're supportive of my recovery. What I'm not supportive of is people that are not supportive of my recovery and finding some way to interact with me in fashions that don't include alcohol and drugs. And
right.
I just don't let those folks that are really negative and going down a bad road around me, because I just don't want to participate in that anymore. But what I do is because I'm involved in this 12-step gig, I've wound up doing a lot of different types of service through that. And I'm not just talking about some kind of GSR or something like that. I'm talking, making the coffee and getting to know the people so that I recognize who the newcomer is when they walk in the door, and I spend a minute with them and try to just focus on where they're at. And another thing that I wound up doing was that was a cool gig for me, because I had an experience in jail too that changed my life, and it caused me to define who I thought God was, and I prayed to that God, and a miracle happened, and I walked out of there, and I didn't go to prison. So instead of going to prison, I wound up going down this other road, and I had made a promise that if I ever had a chance that I would go back. So I love going into jails and prisons and doing work with inmates, and so that's been part of my recovery. I don't do it so much now because I'm involved in some other things that take up all my time. But I love that piece of it when I do get to go into an institution and sit down and work with people. One of the coolest things that's come about in my life recently as a musician is I get to go into a behavioral unit. And me and this guy go in, and we sit down for an hour, and we play. And, in the behavioral unit, a lot of times when you walk in, everybody's like lethargic, and, they've got the med thing going on. They're sad. They're depressed. We go in, we start playing some tunes. In about 15 minutes of that, we've interacted, we've talked to them, we've asked them what their name was, we brought some levity into the place. And through the music and the therapy of the music, I've seen these people turn around within the hour, and they're smiling, they're uplifted, and I get to walk away knowing that by the grace of God, I'm sitting there holding the guitar instead of sitting in the seat, and being one of the residents today. And I don't have any guarantees about it tomorrow or any of that. I'm not saying that like I'm some kind of cured person here, but I know that what I do have is a daily reprieve, and it's based on a spiritual condition to the higher power that I believe in, and I'm grateful that I have a faith. But it's hard to not have a faith in something, and I guess that's kind of a stupid thing to say, because we have a faith in something, even if it's in ourselves or whatever. But we all have some kind of faith in something, and I'm just grateful that I was gifted that through recovery, and learning how to love the unlovable taught me how to love myself.
Right.
Yeah, and being able to work with newcomers and go through the process of those steps with them helped me to understand myself even more. Every time I go through that process where I'm helping someone else through them, I'm gaining that much more. I heal that much more, like peeling an onion, getting to the root of who and what happened. And using and drinking was a symptom of the reality of who and what I was. And now I use other things. I don't use the drugs anymore. I have a thing that I do every morning. I get up and I go to that spiritual place with that process that I do there, and I pray and I ask for help, and then through the day I ask for those that I'm sent, because I'm in a service-oriented position where I help others, and I don't have everybody's answers. Hell, man, I'll be the first one to tell you I don't know what's good for anybody else all the time, or even sometimes.
Right.
I know this, though. I know that what's not good for people.
Well, listen, I'll tell you, in a very spiritual way, you guys have, you were just talking, and not that I wasn't listening, but it was like God told me exactly what I needed to do right now. And my old counselor has been begging me for about 5 years to come back and talk. And I keep putting it off and putting it off and putting it off, Well, I need to get on the phone and tell her to set it up, and I need to go talk to back to the place that helped me get to where I am now. And I may not be where I'm supposed to be, or I guess I am where I'm supposed to be, but I've got someplace else to go too. So you guys helped me realize that, and I really appreciate it.
And the beauty of it is this: you already know what it's like out there. So you don't have to have the answers, but, you know, you get to speak from your heart about what took place in your life. And you're going to see somebody, and it's going to change somebody's life. And Marianne's going to be a different person when we talk to her again after she speaks. Because
and I will call
it's going to happen, and it's going to happen in a way that you're going to be like, whoa, how did that happen? You know, and then you know, who knows? Maybe you'll become on a speakers bureau and tour around. You know, I mean, I've been blessed to be able to do that in high schools and stuff, and it was just a trip to be able to do that. That I recently did something different, and what I did was I was doing a group at our local Denver Health Medical Center. And so I decided, well, let me just sign up as a volunteer. You know, they only want 4 hours a week. Let's see what it's all about. It took 3 months to get through the whole process. I got accepted, and I got scrubs and an ID, and I can actually go places in the hospital that, you know, normal people just can't go and just let themselves in. And God just took me to this place to where I'm able to help in the ER. When people come into the ER, you know, in medical problems. I mean, I spoke to a gentleman, you know, about 2 weeks ago who had, you know, fallen asleep at the wheel after being up on meth for so long, and they ended up having to amputate his arm, you know, and being able to sit there and speak to him and speak to the family and just have an understanding not only of what they were going through, but more so what he was going through. You know, and be able to have that. I mean, how many times did I fall asleep at the wheel and wreck a car? Did it get that bad? Absolutely not. But I understood his language, and I think when I was able to connect with that, I never dreamed in my million years that this is where I was supposed to be, but I just let it go, and I just kept going, and now it's just turned into other things.
And, you know, that's what I miss so much. I haven't done anything like this in so long, and I miss the language, you know, and it's a silent language. It's a knowing, and I know you know me. You've never met me, but you know me, and I miss that. And you guys made me realize that I gotta get back in there to feel that again. I've got goosebumps sitting here right now. You know what I'm saying? So thank you very much. And I'm gonna let you guys close this out because you're really good.
Yeah, we definitely need to close out. We're definitely running out of time. But listen, Marianne, thank you for being a part of the show, and I definitely want to thank Bruce for being on the show and Mark for being on the show. It was kind of funny, you know. I basically today the way that I did it was I said a prayer and I clicked on who was online. And I seen Bruce and I seen Mark, and I sent them invitations to join, and that's how this whole thing, you know, took off today. You know what I mean? And I'm glad that, you know, we were able to, you know, really get some powerful message here today. And tune in next Wednesday. It's Recovery Talk. Bruce, Mark, thank you again.
John, thanks for having me, man. God bless you, man. Thanks for all you do.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
it's been an awesome show. Appreciate it.
You guys are the best. Thank you for being on, and I'll talk soon.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that's it. You know, it's the way that recovery works is we, you know, get to listen to other people and get their feedback. And, you know, I got a lot out of today's show personally. And I'm glad that we're here to be able to share it with the people on, of course, Facebook and all the rest of the social networks and the people that are listening on Blog Talk Radio. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to RIR Radio, and we're out for today. We'll be back on Sunday night at 6:30.